Peace and respect to you all. Welcome to Demolished Doctrine, the beginning of the end of religions. And it's about high time I started telling you what I meant by that. So I started this series, the Coherent Bible, and I got a few episodes in, and I got corrected. I try to appreciate being corrected. It's interesting that that's not an easy thing to be corrected by someone. But I was, for you Bible-y speaky people, I was chastised by whom I perceive as the Father. We can debate whether or not that is the Father, but that's the way I perceive this individual. The chastisement, the correction went something like this. But I'm going to use modern terms. I wasn't being very thorough reading from the text and talking about my understanding of it. After all, that's just my opinion. That doesn't confirm anything. It's not evidence. It's anecdotal or hearsay evidence, which has some persuasion with some people. But for the skeptical community, for the person who thoroughly thinks about things, that's not really evidence. It's a maybe even a compelling personal story, but it's certainly not evidence. So what I've been inclined, instructed, perceived I should do instead is do a hyperliteral translation of the Bible. Now, this is not changing the way that I look at it, but for me personally is only overwhelming confirmation that what I saw roughly and throughout that I've been speaking to for some time now, working on 2 years now, is it's more obvious and deeper than I thought, actually. Especially on the part where it's obvious. So I'm going to read this preface that I've written. These are my words at the beginning of this edition of the Bible, the Coherent Bible. And I want to say first, what a privilege it is. I really cannot express how humbled and honored I feel to have the opportunity to say these things to you, that this reading frame was shown to me, and that I'm allowed to share it, that, you know, that YouTube exists, that the internet exists, that I live in such a place that I have the kind of financial support that I can do this sort of thing at all. Is amazing to me, truly. I might call this something like the skeptic's Bible, or the atheist's Bible, the atheistic version of the Bible, because there's no magic described anywhere that I have found, and I don't think there's going to be, frankly. There's nothing of superstition in this story, especially when you start looking at the words and their fundamental meanings, the etymology of these words. I think it becomes very, very clear that what religious people told me and what religious people have been telling you your whole life is just not in the Bible at all. But instead, they have these presuppositions for reading frame, that is exegesis, and their dogmatic beliefs, that is eisegesis of the stories, that make them look at these stories in a certain way. So this, I think, is actually going to be a very clean very literal translation of the Bible. But before we get started into that, and then, by the way, we're going to have an open room where if you want to stay around and make some comments, objections, whether you are a skeptic or whether you are a religious person and of any religion, please stay to the end. I'm not going to go very long. I plan on most of this being an open room. The Holy Bible, the Coherent Bibliography Edition, which is a hyper-literal edition, which I find describing no superstition nor physical miracles. That is to say, the defeating of physics, or what some might call magic, is really not in this story. As for my personal statement and preface, I have indeed read and do take seriously my immortal spirits, referencing Revelation 22:18, and the importance of properly dividing the Word of God, referencing 2 Timothy 2:15, which I am thoroughly persuaded is actually inerrant and preserved forever. And in that, no person has right to add to nor subtract from the word of the Elohim. And Elohim there means powerful beings. In this case, positive, powerful beings. And that no one has done that, and that I also will not do that. This work does not change the reading frame I have adopted, but instead confirms in greater detail, through depth in etymology of words, making sense of and making use of the deeper meanings and why the roots of these words seem so often distant from eventual words themselves, but have prophetic implications, which is why the roots of these words are so odd. The recent changes in the Bible due to copyright law adherence, and also the traditional reading and interpretation of the text, is what I am attempting to make unclouded through an ultra-literal translation to what we use in our modern lexicon. I am willing to wager my eternal life and immortal spirit on this translation being not only more literal than any other, oh yes, but also that it comports with the highest levels or standards of morality and all of reality, including all of physics and logic as we presently know them. The great day of the Lord will be exceedingly difficult. That's what some would call end times, or the end of this earth and the beginning of our new adventure. I hate the term end times when something means beginning times. It will be exceedingly difficult for all of us on this earth, and increasingly in desperation due to the acts of the angels, but will be, in the end of all ignorance and disease and murder and sexual assaults and all other kinds of suffering, including prejudice and bigotry, persecution. And so I pray and agree, come to us, Lord Christ, and angels and heaven. May the peace of our Lord Jesus Christ come to you all. So let's get into this. If you don't recognize these verses, it's because your dogmatic understanding, I don't want to be insulting, but I can't pull punches here. What you've been told this reads, it simply does not read that. So unapologetically, the book, the prophet Moses, first book of drawing out the beginning of our Genesis into angels, which formerly was called Genesis, and this chapter, the local cosmos, formerly the creation. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning of what concerns you, powerful angels reformed the sky and the planet. The planet was without geographic area distinctions and void of life, and no atmosphere to refract light, and so darkness was upon the face of deep space. I find this interesting because this claim that there's no existent life on the planet, that no life was disturbed in the following process that's about to be described. It seems as if it's qualifying that no infraction was committed upon some such mandate, some standard of morality, some standard of action. Excuse me while I got a sip. Genesis 1:3, and powerful angels said, let there be refraction of light. And there was light on the earth due to atmosphere. Angels saw the light as good, and angels divided the light from the darkness by terms, not by the spinning of the planet. And angels called the lightness, or light, day, and the darkness angels called night. And the evening ended one time, and the morning began, or was beginning of the next time. And these were the first chronicled. And angels said, let there be a planet firmament in the midst of the large group of beings called waters. And let it divide the large group of beings into two parts. And let it divide the waters from the waters. That's the two groups of beings called waters. And angels reformed this planet Earth and divided the waters, which would be under the firmament of heaven, from the waters, which would be throughout the firmament of heaven. And it was done. And angels called the firmament above heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second chronicled. So we have a group being split into two, and part of the group, not evenly into two, but into two parts. And one will be remaining in heaven, one part of that group, and the other part of that group will not remain in heaven. And angels said, let the large group of beings that will be under the sky be forced to gather into places, and let that which will be dry appear by adding great water. And it was done. That is the oceans. And angels called the dry parts earth, and the gathering together of water they called seas. You'll notice this water here is not pluralized or overly pluralized into waters. They called sea, and angels saw that as good. And angels said, let this earth bring forth grasses and the herbs yielding seeds, the fruit trees unmodified, whose seed in itself upon the earth, by distributing seeds and seedlings. And it was done. And this earth brought forth grasses and herb yielding seeds uncultured, and the tree yielding fruit uncultured. And angels saw that as good. So this is referring to basic plants. Of course, we have, through horticulture and intelligence, selected for certain aspects of certain plants to develop them better as food. They were already food, but we made them better food than they already were. And the evening and the morning were the third chronicled. And angels said, let there be constellations as symbols in the firmament of the sky, to divide the enlightened from the not enlightened, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for enlightenment in the heaven, to give knowledge upon this earth. And it was done. And angels repurposed two great lights, the greater of them to rule the day, and the lesser of them to rule the night, and repurposed the stars as constellations also. And angels established the constellations in the heaven to give enlightenment to the people upon this earth, and to rule over the light of mind, and to govern what was darkness of mind. And angels saw that as good. I believe this is referring to the most ancient religions, obviously, much older than the Abrahamics. Some might argue as old as Hinduism, that perhaps the story in the stars, the constellations, it may even be the oldest religion anywhere on the planet. And the evening and the morning were the fourth chronicled. And angels said, let the seas bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that have life, and fowl fly above the earth in the face before the firmament of the heavens. In the face of and before the firmament of the heavens. And the angels had repurposed great whales and every living creature that moves. It's right. The word create means repurposed. In fact, I don't find a claim anywhere these animals were made by Jehovah, by Elohim, or angels. And every living creature that moves, and which water springs can bring forth abundantly of each viable modification, and every winged fowl of each viable modification, and angels saw that as good. And angels blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters of the seas, and let the fowl multiply in its earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth chronicled. And angels said, let this earth bring forth the living creature, herd animals cultured, and creeping things uncultured, and wild animals cultured through emplacing. And it was done. And angels repurposed beasts from a wilderness planet, uncultured, and everything that crept upon the wilderness planet, uncultured. And angels saw that as good. And angels said, let us birth mankind in our image, after our near likeness, and let them have higher consciousness than the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the herd animals, and over all of this earth, and over every creeping thing in the earth. So angels birthed mankind in their own like image. In the like image of angels birthed they them. And angels blessed mankind, and angels said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and fulfill the purpose of this wilderness, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon this earth. And angels said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon this earth, and every tree in which the fruit of the tree yielding seed. To you it will be for meat, and every beast of this earth, and every fowl of the air, and every living thing that creeps upon this earth wherein life, and every green herb for meat. And it was done. Little observation, and I'm going to pause here. The interjected words from the original text, words like that, when, if, you, those kinds of words, conjunctions mostly, with the presuppositions that they thought about the text, made some people believe that the only way to go is vegetarianism, or possibly that in the Garden of Eden everything was vegetarian. It's really not what this reads. It reads continuously referring to what we are given to eat, and it includes ants, lobster, fruit, legumes, you name it. Everything here is for food, according to this. Even some things that, because of your culture, you might find unattractive are approved as food. So, let us stop right there. And peace and respect, Mac the Human and Robert Daniels. Robert Daniels wrote Power Angels, Power Angles or Angels, Powerful Beings. In this case, positive or progressive powerful beings. That means progressive to our cause, not to every cause. So the colloquial usage or colloquial word usage for that kind of a being would be, in the Bible, would be called an angel. An actor in the name of God doing positive things, having the knowledge and ability to do them. Or Elohim, a plural powerful beings. All right, guys. So I'm going to stop right there. There is a link in the description of this video if you want to come in. I don't know how much what I just read moves you. Personally, I find it profoundly different than what Christians have been telling me this text means. Oh, and by the way, it doesn't stop there. It just keeps going like that. That it's talking about reforming the planet, or reform and repurpose. That's what the word create there means. Don't believe me? Go look up the word create in Genesis 1:1. It means to reform or repurpose, not to make something out of nothing. It's not what it means. It cannot be read that way. There is no indication it ever meant something like that. But as soon as you ask a Christian, that is what they will claim. Also, it applies to our perspective. If we're going to describe constellations and use those for some kind of signs of symbols and seasons and days, then constellations are by perspective, and that perspective would be from this planet alone. If we were 30 degrees different to Leo the lion or Taurus the bull, it wouldn't look anything like what it looks from here. Those stars are not equidistant to this Earth. They are not actually arranged as they appear to be arranged from this planet. And worse than that, they're not stars. The human eye can only see stars, within the Milky Way. When you look out of the plane of the Milky Way, be that north or south astronomically, you are not seeing stars. Those bright stellar objects are not singular stars. They're entire galaxies. And from this distance to your eye, they look like a star. Can I speak more about the constellations? I will attempt to, Mac. The story of the Bible is spelled out in every religion I have looked into, including astrology. Oh, no. Tell me it's not true. Yes, including astrology. Now, a lot of people, academics and intelligent people, will say things like, this religion was borrowed from. That's fine. That doesn't dismiss the expression unless you personally have a pride problem. The Bible talks a lot about you getting rid of your own pride and how you're a stiff-necked person and how you need to turn around. So really consider your own pride when you make judgments on other religions, saying that they're not true when they say the same thing as your religion. I'll give you a for instance. For instance, in the Bible, you will find a story of a powerful being on a white horse in the book of Revelation, the white horseman, sometimes called. And the white horseman goes forward with a bow and arrow. And he goes forward conquering and to conquer. So he doesn't do it once, he does it twice. So two separate jobs. In his next job, he rides the red horse, the horse of war and blood. And he carries a sword. God gives him a sword instead of a bow and arrow. This bow and arrow and sword belonging to the hero of the story, who goes forward hunting. If this isn't sounding familiar yet, hang on a second, it will. Goes forward hunting and is a provider and is the hero. That's exactly Orion. So Orion doesn't happen to be on a horse, but in the Bible, those horses don't represent living animals. They represent the job that the person does. So I don't have a problem. Oh, did you get it before I said it? Yeah, Orion, for instance. Sorry, I didn't notice if you had it before I'd said it. Good afternoon, People Thulu. And it just keeps going on like that. If you look at the Lion of Judah, there is a constellation called the Lion. If you see that he was born into the tribe of Reuben, their sign is a bull. There's a constellation that's a bull. If you look at the twin tribes of Manassas, that's the same as Gemini. If you look at the constellation Cancer, that's the same as Issachar's flag. If you look at Levi the priest and his position within the Jewish zodiac, he should be aligned to the scapegoat or Capricorn. That is the priest and the goat share a position. I could keep going. It goes all the way around. There's literally no problems with the constellations describing the story that is in the Bible as well. There was a comment in your previous stream about Australia. Would you remember the reference? I would like to go look it up personally and physically. Cheers. Peebo, yeah, that'd be great. I would love for you to go and find where these structures are. I would try to help you in whatever way that I can. I'm not in Australia. The most that I can tell you about it is that the U.S. government built what the paranoid people call FEMA camps. Do they belong to the FEMA? Yes, the Federal Emergency Management Association, FEMA. It does belong to them. It's part of, which is FEMA is part of Homeland Security. And what these facilities look like are prisons. Okay. If you want to read about the facilities themselves, please read FM 3.39.40. That's how to run one of the facilities. It's a field manual, FM 3.39.40, which describes internment. We're going to review that word in a minute. And resettlement. We'll review that word as well. Facility operations. That's the name of the manual, because they're not inventive. They just name stuff what it is. So the internment part means in the United States, it means held without charges. Resettlement means put somewhere where you can live. It describes handling U.S. citizens, separating them by social security number, et cetera, in these temporary, yes, they're prisons. But you're not being tried or executed in the prisons. You're just held without charges. There are apparently 3 places on the globe that the U.S. government is renting property, and not in our country, not even in the Americas, but in Argentina, Australia, and New Zealand. And Peebo, of course, in Australia wants to check it out. Great. I would love to know more than I can presently find out on U.S. sources with my limited internet that is governed by the powers that be. And there's things I cannot look up. I can't. It's simply blocked. I know about some things that are blocked. I cannot get to them. You just get no answers in your search. That there are apparently large tracts of land that the U.S. government is renting in those 3 countries where large numbers of houses are built. And apparently nobody but maintenance crew are there taking care of them. There's no real population there. And Peebo, whatever you can find out about it, I would love to know. The only one of these that made international news was when the U.S. government approached Africa. It was on Fox News. You can look up Fox News, Africa says no, and you'll find a very short piece that was done only one time and it never re-aired, where African officials in different parts of Africa said, no, thank you. We already have too many white folks. When the U.S. government approached them saying, hey, what do you think about building us some slums in your countries? So Africa said no. The other 3, I never hear anything about. I just found that those were contracts. I can't prove the contracts have been completed. I don't know exact locations. I don't know the numbers of actual structures. I know almost nothing about it because I'm blocked. But whatever you find, I would love to know whatever you find. Let's see. This is a really good point. Yeah, the uninformed are uninformed. And when the U.S. government doesn't advertise something directly, even though they announce it, people don't know about it. Okay, I didn't say a FEMA camp is a slum. That's not what I said. What I said is large amounts of housing crowded together in other countries. I'm calling that a slum. I'm supposing they're just, I'm guessing, but I'm supposing they're not going to be very darn fancy. It's just somewhere where American citizens can survive when in a time when we won't be able to survive in the breadbasket on out to the New York coast. If we have a Yellowstone eruption and a national natural disaster. And I think that's what all this is in preparation for. What is your reference for the mass buildings? At first it was Fox News, and then I don't remember exactly where I found the chain. Actually, I suppose I could probably repeat the process and find it for you again, but I didn't write all of it down. I didn't even think I would be talking about it, frankly. It was for my own edification. I didn't write down anything. I happen to have memorized the number on that manual. After that, it's probably all public information. I could go and look it up. But Peebo, if you just look for the structures themselves in Australia, that would be great. I would love to know whatever you find out. What's your reference for the mass buildings? You can't have both state, Richard. I don't understand what that meant. Would you expound on this, Peebo? Either it is a camp or it's not a camp. Okay, the state side, the ones in the United States, which are internment resettlement facilities, are sometimes called FEMA camps. That's a very general term. It doesn't tell you anything. And there's a lot of people saying very paranoid things since we built the camps. We know they're there. They're actually there. People have seen them. You can get photos of them. There's, I don't know, around 200 of them, maybe more by now across the country. There's a map. You can just look up FEMA map internment resettlement facility. They'll show you where they are. FEMA doesn't even try to hide them. But what confused the U.S. citizens was when we never moved any prisoners into the prisons. So we built all these brand new prisons, and then Americans were like, why aren't we using them? Well, it's because they're not actually prisons. They're not part of our prison system. And that's why there's no incarcerated people in them right now. They only have maintenance crews. You can look up on FEMA.gov or US.Army, US.Navy, US.Marines.gov. You can look up the job internment resettlement facility specialists. It's the lowest level job. You would enter into that as like an E2, definitely not an officer, but an enlisted person. And you can go and work at them. They are taking trainees right now. Although they had a real drive for it at first, I think they filled most of their workforce. And it's slowed down. You might have a little trouble getting a job there now, but wait for someone to quit, and there you go. What do you have an idea of how big the place is? Well, there's only 3 of them that I know of. If 3 different housing projects are designed to hold 60 to 80% of the U.S. population, what size are those housing projects? Approximately enormous. The actual facility, Peebo, look up FM 3.39.40. I can talk a little bit about the maps that are in 3.39.40, which show the structures of the camps. There's 2 kinds of facilities. One, the barbed wire keeps people out. One, the barbed wire keeps people in. The one where the barbed wire keeps people out has some recreational facilities. It has half as many guard towers as the other one. The rooms are bigger. The individual cells are bigger. On the other one where the barbed wire keeps people in, the cells are very small. There's lots of guard towers. And there seems to be no recreational facilities. I think that tells me everything I need to know. that there's two kinds of people going into these facilities. People who are a problem in society and need isolated when the jails aren't open. And people who are quote unquote valuable. Say for me in my area, probably Los Alamos scientists would be going to the nice one with facilities and recreational stuff, and then transferred somewhere else where the U.S. government takes care of them because they're quote unquote valuable U.S. citizens or something. This sounds like a preparing booklet. Okay, it's how to run an internment camp in the United States. That's what it is, including when to use, yes, deadly force is sometimes approved. But mostly it's about separating U.S. citizens by Social Security number so that they don't form groups and start some kind of stupid rebellion and cause the guards to have to do something they don't want to do. I mean, after all, the guards are not robots, they're people. And people don't like shooting people. They especially don't like shooting their own kind of people. And in this case, you know, Americans. You write a lot, Peebo. How am I supposed to respond to all this? Do it one thing at a time, big bro. Or it might simply have to do with the amount of people, a group of people, or a certain size will need different types of designs. Wire facing out, you know, the fences like this keeps people out of a facility. It's very easy to climb over the wire if it's like with gravity's on your side. The other ones, the wire faces in like this. And the ones with the wire facing in don't look very nice. The ones with the wire facing out, not great, but pretty nice. You have not spent time amongst people. Now mislabeling things. Okay. I would need you to be more definitive so I can understand exactly what you're saying, Peebo. I'd love to respond to that, but I don't know exactly what this means. But I'll try to respond if you'll clarify. A preparing booklet. Yeah, it's preparing for a national disaster that they're expecting, that they are predicting. When exactly it will happen, I don't think they know. But the kinds of conditions that will exist when it happens, I think they do know that because science has gotten that far. I was in public schools. I was in the military. I've been a public performer. I don't know what this means. I've not spent time or enough time or adequate time amongst people. Don't know what it means. Australia is a huge place. It's a resettlement facility. The U.S. government pays for a resettlement facility in those three places. If you can't find anything about an American resettlement facility, not American, United States resettlement facility, then look, man, I'm blocked. I can't find out anything. If what I'm saying is incomplete, yes, I'm aware. And I think there's almost nothing that I can do about that. I'm aware that you're right that it's incomplete, however, Peebo. It's very incomplete. It's horrible. All right, if we can go back to the Bible for a while, I would appreciate that. What part of your search is blocked? Anytime I try to look up something Australia, FEMA, you know, as a continuous thing, resettlement facility, those kinds of keywords altogether, I get squat. I get no answers. Although I know that the U.S. government entered into contracts with these countries because they said so in no uncertain terms, even on Fox News. in the piece where they said Africa said no. It was in that piece. So I know the places exist, or at least the contracts were proposed at the time. I can't prove the places do exist because I literally get big goose egg as an answer when I try to look it up. Peace and respect. Jesus is Lord, and or rebuke and reprove. Yeah, I know you're a fan of the USA, and someday you're going to learn. If you had gone into the military, you would already know what I'm about. So you would already have probably confirmed what I'm about to say. The reason the U.S. does so well when we don't produce the world's best car, we don't produce the best electronics, we don't produce the best food, we don't produce the best anything, actually, and yet we thrive, is because we're backed by the World Bank. The reason that the U.S. can afford, no country can afford this, the reason the U.S. has holdings of 51% of the world war machine, no one can afford that, is because we don't pay for it. And we can't fail because we're banked in the U.S. Bank. We've been indebted to them since our Declaration of Independence. And we essentially, to the World Bank, are Uncle Vinny the Hammer for the mob. So what you're in love with is Uncle Vinny. That's what you're in love with. Jesus is Lord. You're in love with a monetarily well-backed tyrant who goes all over the world oppressing and killing in the name of freedom, when actually what we're doing is attacking the countries who won't fold to the World Bank. So, wow, welcome to the machine, buddy. I don't know what you would find attractive about that unless you just love raw power and don't care about morality. I mean, how do you think that we took on a 600-year-old army? You think countries just pop up and take on and beat 600-year-old armies all the time? That's how you think it works? Well, we didn't have manufacturing of muskets. And we didn't have any money at the beginning of this country. So we borrowed from France and London and bought weapons from them to have our revolution. When you have something financed, there's usually a little, price tag, a little increase written on that. Don't know if you've ever experienced that. I have. So our national debt is so horribly predictable and completely irrelevant. Peace and respect, JG. Yeah, tell me about it, bud. Statism. As far as I know, the British Navy, the British Royal Army was like 600 years old when we fought for our independence from the crown. 600 is just a number I pulled out. It's probably wrong, but old, a really old army. From what I understand, their navy was like 600 years old at the time. So their army must have been older than that, right? So you're not understanding the logistics of political. I'm not a historian. Pretty sure you made deals regarding Florida and so. Yes, we did. We did. We made a lot of deals. Yeah, I think Florida belonged to France or something like that. And we dealt with France too. Then you have the French Indian Wars or something like that. Logistics and political climate. I'm not a historian, Peebo. I'll admit it freely, but I know you don't get to beat an old army with no supplies. And I know supplies aren't free. And I know we didn't have any real way to trade at that level. This country was just not very well developed at the time. I think that they went in debt. I can't prove it. Anyway, that's not my specialty, man. We're so far off topic now. We're like 3 levels off topic for me. That's why I want to get back to the Bible. The Bible is something that I understand. Politics, religions, history, never cared. If you want to talk to me about, I don't know, falling a tree with a chainsaw, or tuning an engine, or why caterpillar controls and case controls are opposite on a backhoe, I'll talk about that stuff all day long. That stuff I know, and the Bible. But you guys are asking me to go like way beyond my wave cuffs here. Peace and respect, Fifth Trumpet. Good to see you. El. El is an ancient word which means the basic idea of God. Okay? And it's, from what I understand, it's no particular God. So it's just a general term, like we use the word God, which is no being anywhere. It's just a job description. El is something like that, as far as I know. This is why El appears in a lot of biblical names. Raphael, Gabriel, Mikael, and many, many others, is because that El right there means general God. So like Mikael means him like God, with a surety. It implies a surety, not like him who is something like God, or him who I think is like God, but him who is exactly like God. Michael. What about backhoe control? Different brands do it different ways. Mac. On Caterpillar controls, you have 3 levers. On case controls, you have 2 levers, not including the foot levers. So on Caterpillar equipment, you have left and right on your far right stick. And then on your middle stick and left stick, you don't have left and right. You only have forward and back. So you have left turn, right turn, boom down, boom up. Toward you is always toward you. The lever toward you is always toward you in all the machines. And then you have the middle lever, which is arm. So you have the boom on the right, and then the arm in the middle, and that's arm up and down, and toward you is toward you. And then you have the bucket control on the left, which normally is operated with only the left hand, and that's curl and uncurl the bucket like that. And again, that's toward you means toward you. Whereas the case controls are not that way at all. They have 2 wobble sticks instead of 3 levers. And both the wobble sticks have 4 positions, making all of those controls as well. But you have to kind of get your brain used to it when you first get on it. John Travolta's movie Michael. Yes, Michael. That's right. Him like God. That was an amazingly funny movie. Completely inaccurate according to the Bible, but funny. It'll be semi-priority. Also, the older the company, the more set controls would be, and I am guessing. More set controls would be, I'm guessing. Maybe I was semi-proprietary or companies. I think the leaders in the businesses, in that business, by wherever they sell in the world, kind of created their own standard way of thinking of and doing it. But I don't think they were stupid, because most human beings are right hand dominant and have better feathering, gentle control over things with their right hand than they do with their left. So most of them put the gross, easy operation on the left hand side, and the more technical, difficult things, that is the bigger piece of the equipment, on the right. So that kind of makes sense to me. Some brands have foot pedals for turn. It's not in the sticks at all. Let me say Freightliner. Case CPOG has foot levers for swing. It was actually funny weird. Yeah, early cars are funny weird. I'm kind of a fan of pieces of equipment. I'm not a historian, but I do find it interesting that we had electric cars before internal combustion engines in the United States. Now we're going back to it. Why? I don't see anybody in the background. Do any of you guys want to come in and speak? This is going on 50 minutes now. If none of you guys are interested in coming in and speaking, then I think I'm going to wrap it up because I'm kind of tired of hearing myself talk. If you want to say something challenging or interesting about the Bible, I'd appreciate that. Did you see my question further up about creation? Ooh, gosh, missed it. Let's see if I can find that. Mac the human, Israel. Wait, what about backhoe controls? Back to creation. Back to creation. All right, very well put. Mac, I don't see a specific question about creation, buddy. You want to, like, I don't know where this question is, Mac. You want to write it again for me? If you can repeat the idea, I'd appreciate that. Guys, look, I really feel like when I was given this reading frame, the first thing I had was David and Goliath. That already just blew my mind. It was amazing and made me a believer out of a hard atheist. So that was enough for me. I was convinced. I needed no more evidence than that. I've been given so much more evidence than that. I really feel like it can't be for me because it's an excess. It's an extreme excess. And because of that, I think it's not for me, which means I think it is for someone else. And I think maybe it is for some of you. So I feel like I am serving you. I am trying to serve you as a child of God. That's what I'm trying to do here. I guess that's not always obvious, but it's true. Did Elohim, that would mean powerful beings, in this case angels, choose this planet because, in part, of the visible constellations here? No, they pulled that out of their butts. That's why the constellations don't look much like the actual things they're supposed to, that they're used to represent. It's just completely arbitrary. It has to make sense in their arrangements and which one's facing which way. But the reason that the Leo the lion doesn't look like a lion, and the reason that the balances don't look like a set of balances, is because they needed, for the story to work, they needed balances to be over there somewhere. So they picked that star set and said, okay, that's the balances. That's why it looks like nothing. That's why all of them look like nothing, practically. Don't threaten me, buddy. Let's see. There you go. Orion kind of, but yeah, his body proportions are weird. He's like the opposite of a dwarf. Orion has got some weird body proportions. Peace and respect, Fifth.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Senor, I hear you just fine. You're coming in 5 by 5.
Okay, so I mean, honestly, I do think that the constellations look like they're symbols.
Yeah, somewhat.
I mean, they really do. I mean, like,
really, you find me. Which one do you think is the most accurate? Which one looks best to you?
They all do, but I mean, obviously, the Scorpio looks most like a Scorpio. But if you say, okay, this is a scale. If you say this is a scale, and you see, okay, well, that's that side, and that's the other side, and that, I mean, you could see how it is. Like, is it the people sitting in the chairs and the queen lying down? Yeah, it doesn't really look like that. But at the same time, you can see where the head would be, and the leg would be, and the body, and the throne.
Okay, I'm going to jack up your volume a little bit because mine is overpowering yours. When I speak, you get run over. Okay, so you just got jacked up. All right. So, okay, this. You know, it's funny you should offer Scorpio as an example. You know why that's interesting to me?
No.
Because that's the one we made up.
Okay.
Scorpio originally was both consumed Libra and Akia the eagle. So what you said, that really looks like a scorpion to me. That used to be an eagle.
Oh, well, it does look like a scorpion. So there you
Okay,
go.
it don't look much like an eagle, though.
Well, I bet if someone pointed out, they say, okay, that's where the head is, and this was the arms. You can see it. Like, let's just say something like Hydra. It's just a snake. It's just a chain of stars. You can see that chain.
Okay.
Yeah. And like, let's say the bull. Like, yeah, it just looks like the head, but you can still kind of see. Okay, that's the head. That's the heart. I can kind of see
I
it.
can see the head and the kind of heart and the kind of legs. It looks like a mouse playing Twinkle Toes. That's
Well,
what
see now
Torquartz really looks like. It's got really super long legs. It looks like it's got a really long, narrow nose, much longer than a cow would have. To me, it looks like a mouse that's like twinkling its way across the floor in a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Is what it looks like to me. It doesn't look like a big, strong, fat bull. That's for sure. And its tail is like it's a bull with a lopped off. What do they call that when they cut off dogs' tails? What do they call that, Marty? You know that term. When they dock the tail of an animal, it has like a super short tail. It's more like a bear or something. It's not like a bull's tail.
It's what you would like. I don't know, like a Picasso painting. It doesn't look exactly like you would picture a bull, but you can see the shape of what. Well,
that's what
about.
I mean. What I mean is the constellations were named after the ideas, and those constellations weren't formed to fit the ideas. They just had to pick constellations that look something like the object in order to make out the story. So yeah, it's kind of close because angels aren't stupid. But do they really look like those objects? Meh, not so much. The result of the surgery is called a nub, says Marty Camejo, and she knows because she works with dogs. Peace and respect, Mac the human.
Hey, Richard. Who's with us?
This is Fifth Trumpet, which is, I think, the third name I've known him by.
He sounds religious.
Fifth Trumpet, if you wanted to state your religious perspective briefly to Mac, and if you guys wanted to exchange that, both you guys already know where I stand.
Totally. What's up?
If I want to state my religious perspective, well, I'm Christian. I mean,
that'll do. It's good to meet you. Me too. I'm Christian too.
How's it going?
Good. So, this is one of my favorite topics. I love talking about the stars and the constellations and stuff just in general. And I love that they tell a story as well, and specifically the hero's story that Richard is telling, is pointing out exists in these stories. But this is my favorite thing to do, is to think about the world. I don't know if either of you have ever had the chance to go to a designated dark place. I think Richard has one pretty close to him in the White Sands National Park. I don't know how close that is to you, but I think it's in New Mexico.
Relatively
right?
Close. Yeah, it's in New Mexico.
They have these areas. There's one in Michigan too, where there's a very little amount of ambient light created by artificial light. And when you're in those places, the stars are very different. And these are the stars. Every time I'm in those kind of places, I think that those are the stars that the ancients had access to and must have felt inundated by. They must have been so awe-inspiring and overwhelming on a daily basis or a nightly basis, that no wonder people stared at them and let their mind wander and came up with shapes and derived shapes from what they saw, and then started to spin stories around those shapes. And this fits anyway with the method that I think I understand Richard proposes for communication from the divine, that it would sort of appear like that. You would find yourself in a calm place with a still mind and receive ideas. And I think that might be what you meant when you said the angels pulled them out of their ass.
Well, sort of, but
okay.
Not really, because I don't think there was any human on this earth authorship in any way. Okay. So I think the stories are told in order that we would someday be able to translate them by a set of events that angels perform. So what I mean by that, I guess, is that when the story reads, "And I made the stars also," which is how it reads in the King James, which is which is not what it reads in the original words. It actually reads, I pointed out the stars also, which works well a few verses back where it says, I will use the stars as signs and symbols of days and times and seasons and blah, 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 blah. Signs, meaning signs of end times, that we will see things in the night sky. So the angels then challenged with, I don't know how challenging it was, because I think they're freaking crazy brilliant, like Einstein's basically retarded, that kind of crazy brilliant.
Right.
That from this position on this earth with atmosphere, they stood and looked at the night sky and said, how will we use this position to tell this series of stories? And then when they established that from the first time from when they first established the earth before man was ever on the earth, before God placed him into the garden, that's in the book of Genesis. God placed man in the garden whom he had formed. Actually Elohim, angels placed, is what it reads actually. That those things were already established, the story that they would tell.
I see.
Is it my turn, or is it going 1, 2, 3 all the way around, or
Tag, you're it.
Unless you want to say something. I mean, I never know when to interject. I can never tell when it's like the right time.
Let's just go round robin. That way it's established and you know when to speak. It's all you, bud. So the floor is yours, buddy.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say that I have spent time out in the country, like where there's no light. And it's true. You do get familiar with the stars. You see the constellations, you see the planets moving, and you take notice of it. But one other thing I realized or noticed later on was this, like, you know, people always say, oh, we always used to look up. Hang on, I'm on the phone. We always used to look up. But when you're out there, you really don't look up because, you know, our necks just don't do that. Like, they don't go up. That's not natural for our heads to go up. They go down. So what you do is you look out straight and you're looking to the south, because then in the south you can see the constellations go across.
Okay, I can dig that. Mac, you got anything on that?
I mean, you can lay on your back. You might even be inclined to.
Inclined to. He said inclined to.
He got it. Yeah. Anyway, that's how I always pictured them. The ancients, that is, that are fascinated with the stars, is just laying on their backs with their, with their hands back, and just like you look at clouds.
But it is true if you are, like, let's say in the Rocky Mountains or something like that. I mean, it's wow, it's shimmering like unbelievably, the amount and all that.
It really is.
Best view I ever got, Death Valley, National Training Center for Armed Services, California. There's literally no light there at night because it's all military people working there, and you have light, what they call light policing, light. Shoot, what was the term they used? Anyway, it means you can't use lights.
So
there's no ambient line at all. Yeah, well, it's referred to as blackout mode on a vehicle. But then, even if you're reading a map, you have to use a red lens flashlight and keep it pointed down so the enemy never sees the flag. Blah, blah, blah. It's war practice. So light discipline. They call it light discipline. That's the word. Oh, Peebo knew it too.
Totally.
Yeah, that's the word. Anyhow, okay. Fifth, did you get to hear me read any of that transliteration?
Yeah, I did, and I'll give you you want my opinion? I mean,
of course, I always want your opinion.
Here's the thing, every version says the Lord God, says God created, and God did this, and God, absolutely every version.
Sure they do.
So to say that suddenly now it's angels, I wouldn't know why you would say that. Let me finish. Let me finish.
What word are they using to hold on, one thing at a time, man. I'll forget. Sure. I'm not that bright, What do you think the word God, when you read it and say the King James or whatever, what do you think the original word there is?
Well, I believe it's Elohim.
And what does that word mean?
Well, It's a tricky word because El means God, but what is Elohim? It's like something, I think it means plural in some way or another.
El does not mean God. Not literally.
Okay.
We use it that way. We translate it that way.
Okay.
Is that why you asked me what El means? Because I didn't take that question literally.
Oh, yeah. No, I was serious.
Oh, I thought you meant it like, how do we use what El means? We use it to say God. But the literal translation is not God. That's not what it literally means. It literally means powerful being, singular. It could be any power. Satan is an El. Baal is an El.
Okay.
You know, the vowels aren't nearly as important as the consonants. Vowels were kind of, I don't know, up in the air or up to, they're somewhat subjective. To say Bel, B-E-L, is the same as to say Baal, is the same as to say Baal, is the same as to say Bill. And all of that could be, all of those could be spelled B-E-L.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you've got some good stuff like that right there. You're right. Bell, Baal, that makes sense.
Right.
One thing you said one time was, even in this presentation you did, where you've got the waters above and the waters below, and the waters being people. When I heard that, man, I just say, oh my God, it dropped the floor because, yeah, you've got the angels in heaven and you've got us on the earth. Whoa.
Well, without waters
great.
being people, that is one confusing verse, dude. It doesn't make a bit of sense if you don't have that as people.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
And two different locations, heaven and earth.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. So I think you have some really good stuff, but there's other things where I think, well, that doesn't seem right.
Well, could I take a minute to show you just how insanely bad this is? I want to show you just how horrible this is, because some places when I was doing this, I thought, dude, nobody's going to believe me, because that doesn't sound at all like the Bible, right? No one's going to believe me that this is what it actually says. And I was thinking about that, and I was doing some of this translation, and I thought, you know what I should do? I should put the literal translation, the actual words in English, under the verse. That's what I should start doing. So here I did that. Now this is exactly what it reads. Okay? Category 1 ideas, the kind of ideas of location. This is exactly what the Bible reads. Scattered, increase, travailing circle, pearl divided.
I could just smell that.
Probably could have been more.
I mean, does that even sound like English to you? Scattered, increase, travailing circle, pearl divided.
For which
That's
one?
That's literally
214?
what it says. What's that?
For which?
That's
for which one?
That's 2:12 through 14 right there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, what does that even mean without some kind of context?
No, you're saying that's the Hebrew words?
Those are the actual Hebrew words spoken in English. Like, no kidding. Like, no kidding, no kidding.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't get any better, actually. And I can see why in translation of these pieces, they were like, they were sticking with their storyline and doing what they could. Do you know there's numbers in the Bible like 100, 3, 18, 11? Did you know that? In the original Bible, it says 100, 3, 18, 11. Just what the hell does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what, when they made it into the King James, they left out the 18 and the 11 because they couldn't make sense of it. And they just wrote 103. Is that a good translation? When you left out two entire ideas? What do you think? I mean, are
So
you voting for them leaving entire ideas out of the Bible? Because that's what they did.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just try to use the English because I don't speak Hebrew. So you went all the way to chapter 4?
Oh, I'm way past 4 now. I want to find you a long set of the actual words so that I can read them to you in the order they're given from the most original text, as much as we can verify the original, as much as that is. And I'm going to read you the English words from the actual Hebrew ideas as soon as I find one, because it was a while before I started doing that. Oh, here's one. Nope, that was a translation. I want to find one of them for you, though. I didn't do it all the time because it's just laborious.
Laboratory?
No, not laboratory. Laboratory is a place you work. Laborious is the work itself.
So you went through Noah's flood?
Yeah, I'm all the way up to like starting on 15 soon. Okay, let me read you. These are the English words from the original Hebrew words. You ready to hear this verse? I'm not joking. This is what it actually read in the first place. Glisten, press out, oil midday, wrought, house in box, mother measure, accomplish upward above exceedingly, ascend, show offering, wide entrance, house in box, appoint side beside, lowly and placed nether parts, second another multiple of 3/3 part wrought. Can you even guess what that says?
Wrought, meaning brought forth?
Wrought as in to physically make something, a piece of work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You want to guess what verse that is?
6:16.
Yeah, what does that say without looking at it?
Well, I'll have to go look. Hang on.
It's the window in the ark. When you read the King James, it's a description of the window in the ark. Okay? That's how it turns out there. In a literal translation, it comes out a shining work and container to house in, and of mother measurements accomplished high above, an ascended show offering with wide entrances, a container to house in, established with one beside another, some lower, some higher, and a third part made highest was made. That's a picture of the mercy seat and the seraphim and the box, or chapter 4 of the book of Revelation, the throne room of heaven. And it's repeated right here, but people think it's a description of a window.
The windows of heaven?
Well, it includes
the windows
idea
of
entrance into heaven. Yes, it does.
Okay, then a window to heaven. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not a window in a wooden boat. Not at all.
Right.
Okay, so there's an example where the direct translation makes sense. Absolutely, utterly, directly translated, it makes perfect sense like this. I mean, if you look, I used all of the exact words that they used in exactly the order they used, and I only stuck in things like the word in and to. That's it. I injected the word a and, but I changed it as little as possible, and it makes perfect sense all by itself. And by the way, it fits with the verse before, and it fits with the verse after, and makes a continuous story.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that'd be interesting to see. You should, I mean, I've always said you could write a book. So this could be a good book.
Welcome, JSMS and Robert X and AK. I couldn't even send you an invitation, but here you are. Thank you for that. And Robert as well. I wasn't able to send you an invitation. I did send out some invitations. Look, guys, I want to say this again. I think that this is the most important thing I could have done in my life. More than having kids or, I don't know, whatever, discovering some great scientific thing. This is bigger than anything I've ever heard of. Peace and respect, and welcome, Marty. Marty, who's 23 and lies a lot.
I wish I was 23 still.
Yeah. I know you're not willing to bend on the story, Marty. I get it. You've got a reputation. I get it.
How you doing, Richard? I haven't seen you in a minute.
Sister, I am doing great. How's my favorite witch?
Ugh, crazy.
Why?
Crazy. Well, now that I work at a dog hotel / dog shelter, so no one was able to travel last year due to COVID. But kids got out of school in July, and vaccinations and stuff starting to open up, so people are starting to travel. We've been crazy busy since May. Like, we've been booked solid or overbooked like every weekend since May. So, like, it's insane. And I have 2 Etsy stores I'm trying to get off the ground, and I come home from work, I sit for an hour, then about 30 minutes, and I work for another hour and 2 hours. So I just work constantly between my day job and my stores. So I'm pretty wiped. And I saw you tagged me, you were going, so I got about 10 or so minutes, and I figured I'd pop in and say hi for a second.
Well, thanks for dropping in at all. Thanks, Marty. I appreciate you. We're gonna have to, I still want to continue the conversation we started how long ago? A year
I know.
or something?
I know. I keep wanting to come on. I have to talk to you. I have to talk to CJ. I have to talk to like 15 people. But I'm like, work is crazy right now. CJ Cox, the synagogue.
Wait. Is he a religious guy?
Is there? You know who he is, right? CJ Cox.
Yeah, I know. Well, if he's the same CJ Cox I know, yeah. Yeah, don't listen to him.
No, it's not going to be about anything religious. It's going to be about his.
Oh, okay. Well, fine then. Fine. Okay.
It's going to be about his views on LGBT rights and stuff like that. Similar to the conversation you had with Knock. I don't know if you saw that one or not.
Right.
But yeah, it's like crazy. Kids go back to school on August 3rd, so we're expecting to slow down a little bit because not so many people are going to be traveling, so not so many people have to book their dog. But right after that is Labor Day weekend. I'm not going to be at work. I'll be at Dragon Con, so I'll be busy then. Like, at
least you found a way to wiggle a vacation in there during a premium overflow time. So that was good planning on your part. So yeah.
I go to Dragon Con every year. The only reason I didn't do it last year was because of COVID. They shut it down due to COVID last year in Atlanta. So, but this year I was like, they're doing Dragon Con this year? I'm going to Dragon Con. So, yeah, it works been crazy. And like I said, I come home from my day job, I eat, I sit for 30 minutes, and I craft stuff for my stores, and I go to bed. So it's just been working literally nonstop.
I just want you to know that I've been studying. I learned more about Samhain, like how to say it.
Samhain?
Right. I learned that. And I learned why it is, where it is in the year, and what that represents, and the larger celebration that surrounds it. I went and tried to educate myself just for you, Marty. I want you to know that.
I appreciate that. I'm pagan for the other people now, so don't know. And I've been practicing and studying witchcraft for almost 15 years. Next June, around my birthday, next June will be 15 years.
And the next conversation I want to have with Marty is, why does it work? Why does the work work? That is a huge topic and of great import.
Yeah, it is. It is. And like I said, once work starts to settle, like day job work starts to settle, then I'll be able to sit down for
So it'll be like after Dragon Con, right?
After Dragon Con. Yeah, definitely after Dragon Con. So hopefully like mid-September.
So like mid-September, so like around the 15th or more like the 17th. I'm going to nail you down, lady.
Because I don't know what my days. Our week goes from Wednesday to Tuesday. So I don't know what I'm working that Wednesday until the Tuesday before. So when my schedule comes out around then, I'll email you and let you know.
You promise? Because I'll take it as a personal.
No, I will.
Probably have to cry if
no,
you break that appointment.
I would never do that to you. I would never do that to you.
No,
So,
but I have done it to you, haven't I?
But by accident. It was mostly like a time zone thing. I think we had a time zone mix up a couple times. But no, it was when I get, probably after Dragon Con, when I get my schedule, I'll definitely let you know. I'm not going to back out of a conversation with you.
Yeah, so, I'd love to have that conversation. Continue
absolutely.
on where we left off last. Mac, do you know Marty?
No, I'm thrilled to meet you though, Marty.
Nice to
is your original conversation up on your channel, Richard?
Yeah, all of our conversations should be on this channel.
Sure.
I'll look it up. I'll check it out.
And Fifth, Marty, have you guys met? Fifth is a hell of a sweet guy.
That name sounds familiar. The Fifth Trumpet sounds familiar.
You've probably seen him around Praise and maybe even, I don't know, Fifth, do you ever go by like Rage and Ronnie's channel? Or just don't respond. It's fine too. So Mac, here's a little game I like to play. Let's play Guess Marty's Age.
You're roboting out a little bit, Richard. you're roboting out.
Yeah, that's because my boss is cheap. Mac, guess, seriously guess, try to really guess. Don't worry about hurting her feelings. She's pretty tough. Really try to guess her actual age. Go ahead.
All right. I'm pretty good at this, I got to say. I work at a restaurant, so it behooves me to know whether to say ma'am or miss. So.
Well, I'm from New Jersey. I live in Georgia, but I'm from New Jersey, so we don't like ma'am. So you can just skip right over that.
Oh, is miss even okay? Or is that
miss is fine, but no, that's fine. But down here you say ma'am, but up north you tell a lady ma'am, she'll cut you. So you can't say that up there.
All right. Well, you've been practicing for 15 years, so you're 15 at least. Maybe 15 or 16 years old. Okay, no, I'll really do it. I'm gonna go. All right. You're a little tiny box on my screen, so forgive me, but I'm gonna go 38. 38 is my number.
I appreciate that.
All right.
I just turned 44 in June.
44, nice. Well done.
Thank you.
Now she won't admit what she grinds up to put in her bathtub. She won't, but she won't tell anybody because she doesn't want competition. That's what it is.
Duh.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong.
It's real easy. Stay out of the sun unless, just to get, overexposure to the sun. Drink water, take naps.
Nice.
I'm a gamer, so I like to play video games. So I spend a lot of, and I live in Georgia. It's summer right now, so it's like 95 degrees and like 80% humidity. And especially I love summer. I don't want to go outside, so I'm gonna sit inside and play video games. Done.
I used to be 44, and I don't believe a bit of the crap you just said. I'm just having fun. No,
you're good.
I don't think I like to tease Marty because she is an attractive woman. I'm not hitting on her, but she is an attractive woman. She's very, very interesting to talk to, and I really enjoy your mind. And it's a lot of fun to make fun of you because you look so young.
I appreciate that. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to take some melatonin and play some video games. Still starts to kick in because I have a long day tomorrow. I had a long night tonight. So it was good to meet both of you. Richard, like I said, after Dragon Con, but my schedule kind of calms down a little bit. We are definitely going to sit down and have some more conversations. Like I said, you get to pick the topic. And if the topic is why does witchcraft work for me or in general, either way, we'll go from there.
Well, I think we're going to have to speak generally out of respect for Coven.
Okay. All right. Good night, you guys.
All right.
Good night.
You got to boot yourself, Marty. Have a good night. Thanks for dropping by.
All right. Goodbye.
Yes, Exodus 22:18. I have informed Marty in no uncertain terms several times that I am developing a relationship of friendship, kindness, and understanding with her in order that I slay her, for I will not suffer a witch. And she wouldn't flinch at all if I said that while she was sitting here. She knows that's what I aim to do. Now, how you do it is an interesting question. If you look into the word slay in the Bible, in no way does that mean to literally murder. It does not mean that. And besides, that wouldn't be keeping very well in keeping with God's highest morality if instead of teaching each other, we killed each other before we had the chance to learn. You see, people don't learn things while they're dead. I don't know if you were aware of that, but that might be my personal theory. But as far as I know, when people are dead, they're not advancing spiritually. So what I mean to do with Marty, and she's well aware of it, is have conversation about why things work, what we can find to reasonably explain those things that happen in reality, and find a way to justify them that makes sense both in our personal experience and in physics, science, math, et cetera, et cetera. So those are conversations we have, and I enjoy her a lot. She's one of the most honest people I've ever known. JG, adding to the word. Actually, JG, that's exactly what I'm correcting. I am correcting people who added to the word and subtracted from it. I said it earlier. I don't know if you caught it. There's literally a part of the Bible where a number reads, and I'm quoting the exact actual number that's written in the original text in the Hebrew. It literally reads 100, 3, 18, 11. Dude, that's not a number. But those numbers have meanings to the Hebrew people. I'll read you some of the meanings. For instance, 1 means God, a very general God. It doesn't necessarily mean Jehovah. It means the idea of God. And then 100 means God's elect. So it's stating it twice. God's elect. When it says 100, that's what it means. It's not a number. And then to say 3 means harmony, the idea of harmony. And then to say the number 18 means bondage or possession, or to be possessed. Then the number 11 means disorder and judgment. So what the number 100, 3, 18, 11, written as a sentence, when it can't be a number, means God's elect live in bondage and disorder and will be judged. Imagine that, a coherent sentence.
Can you say that? Say that again.
True. Okay. God's elect, that means people who come to believe in God, his elect, right? Are harmoniously living in bondage and disorder and will be judged.
So what, do you know what 1,000 is?
I haven't run across that one. I haven't looked it up yet.
Oh,
do you know?
No, I thought you would.
I
thought you were like,
I'm only at Genesis. Let's see, how far have I gotten with this?
Oh, I thought you were looking at a book of translations or something.
No, I'm taking notes what these numbers mean, and I'm going by consensus because it's actually kind of sporadic trying to find these. Well, you wouldn't believe how much information there is about the Bible. It's pretty crazy.
It is true that 4 will always mean the earth.
I have it as creation, earth, air, fire, and water, the 4. And also the 4 major directions, the cardinal directions. Okay.
That's exactly why it's earth.
Right.
Well, some of the reasons, the 4 seasons, the 4 directions.
So apparently I've done to Genesis 14:8 so far, or 14:18 so far. Interestingly enough, showbread means Christ. How's that for weird?
Yeah, the bread, because the word, the word became flesh, and the bread is the word.
You're pretty good at associating things, bro. I got to give that to you. That was pretty good. And it's interesting to use the idea of bread that way, because it's like bread is super basic nourishment, you know?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So it's like a staple of a society is to have bread. Well, at least in that society.
Yeah, you consume the bread, you consume the word. What sustains you. You will not live on flour alone. You will live with the word.
Right. Those are pretty good, Fifth. That was pretty good. Thank you for that. Rebuke and repute. Would you tell me what Nessa Gessa means? You've written that a couple times.
MAGA?
Anyone know here?
Yeah, it's a MAGA thing. Well, it's loosely associated with QAnon and stuff, but it's an older sort of right-wing conspiracy about how there's going to be a reset to the economy and we're all going to be free of debt and stuff.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay, well, you can just stop describing right there, Mac. I appreciate that. I love you. Jesus is Lord. If what you're going to talk about in this chat is politics, hit the road, Jack. Got no use for you. We're talking about God, things that matter. Now, if you want to talk about the Bible and stuff that matters in real life, and not talk about these soap operas that you're deeply involved in for no apparent reason, then you'll be welcome. But this is not a discussion on soap operas. And if you think it's not a soap opera, go look into how much they're actually divided. These are actors in a play, and you are sitting in front of a masterwork play, and you don't seem to know it.
It's funny, I bought a hat, right? Because I wanted a hat, but I couldn't find a good one. All they had was this red hat. So I finally got the red hat, and it has these it says Nebo, like Nebo flashlights. So it says NEBO. And I realized, oh man, this looks like MAGA. This looks like a MAGA hat. Cool.
Does anyone know offhand what Romans 13 is, or am I going to have to look it up?
I'm sorry.
Well, Richard, I can honestly say that I appreciate the work that you've done. I mean, Jesus, to go through and translate all that, that's a big job.
I figure that I might get it done within 2 years. I do about between 5 and 10 verses a day.
Yeah, that's good, because then it's like bite-sized, don't get overwhelmed and confused and everything.
Well, I don't have time to do more and support myself.
Yeah.
And I've made long-term promises to some of my contract holders, and I'm not going to lie to them, but at the same time, I want to try to do this as well. So I'm doing the best I can.
Now there was one. Go ahead.
No, that was it.
Go ahead. Okay. Well, there was one question in the chat that I asked. Have you ever used the boom or the arm of the track caterpillar to lift yourself up onto a truck bed?
I can imagine doing that. If you put the front bucket in the bed of a truck.
You've never seen that?
No, I can imagine how to do it, though. You put it in neutral, release the emergency brake. You'd put the front bucket up in the back of the truck. You'd push down on the front bucket until the front tires were completely off the ground. So the whole cab's at a steep angle. Then you rotate your seat around, put down your stabilizers, lifting it up as far as it can. Putting the bucket in the center of the mass directly behind it, but close to you, you would push up. Because the bed's steel and the bucket's steel, it'd slide pretty easy, much easier than the bottom of the bucket will against asphalt or pavement, whatever kind. And you push that until you raise yourself up high enough, the back of the vehicle up high enough that your front tires are going to meet on then you just push yourself up in it. That wouldn't be hard at all. So what action would that be? That would be let's see, that would be bucket curl while arm down, while boom toward you. There. That's what you'd have to do. And that would, well, first you'd put this down, then you'd level that out, then you go there, then you pull this way like that, and that would push you in the back of the truck. On a case. Not on all of them. I've done some pretty crazy stuff with heavy equipment. It's so powerful. It's so much fun.
I've seen videos like of people operating, and it's like, man, that's crazy how you can do that. And they're all balanced.
Try to imagine what 30,000 PSI means. Try to imagine that. And that's like run-of-the-mill hydraulics, 30,000 PSI.
Because I guess you'd think of these machines as being kind of bulky and clunky, but they're actually able to be really nimble.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the operator, really. It's how good is the operator? That's the question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as fast and clumsy and dangerous as you like. Or it can be super well-defined and kind of beautiful, actually. Let's see.
Gentlemen, I have to sign off, I'm afraid.
Well, thanks for dropping by, brother.
Yeah, what a great time. It was good to meet you, Fifth Trumpet, and I'll see you tomorrow, Richard.
Yes, sir. Please do. I'd love to.
All right.
All right, man.
Planning for it to work
nice
out.
Seeing you.
Nice.
Peace and respect.
Yeah, you too.
Let's see if I can bring up Romans 13 for our friend. Who was it? JG. And buttons and Romans 13. Here we go. All right, so here we are. There. Let every soul be subject to the higher powers, for there's no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whoever therefore resisteth the power resisteth the ordinance of God. And they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. Dum, dum, dum. Boy, wouldn't a government like to write it that way? Wouldn't they? Let's find out what it actually means. Wouldn't that be interesting? Romans 13. Let's find out what it actually says. Normally every is perfectly every or absolutely every. Psyche is soul. I know that one. Let every. So including all forms of declination. All things, every, these are the common usages. These are not written in stone what it means. That's not what these are here. Those are the way that the King James uses that word. What does it actually mean? Individually, each, every, any, all, the whole, everyone, all things, everything, collectively, or some of all, or samples. Okay. So it means each individual or samples thereof. That's the first word. This is what I'm doing like all the time going through this. This is exactly the process. Soul, psyche. We can go off that. I think we can skip that when everyone knows what psyche means. Suke. Next word. Be subject or subjected. How does that come out? Hup ot as so. Does it mean subjected? Well, actually it means put under, be subjected to, or submit. It means to arrange under or to subordinate. This could be like a military idea. To subject or put in subjection. This could be the idea of a king and a serf to subject one's self and obey. This could be like a voluntary servant, such as a religious person, to submit to one's control, to accept authority. So this is, again, about the same as the religious idea. To yield to one's admonition or advice. So when someone corrects you or gives you advice, to accept it, to obey or be subject to. Okay, so most of this is like voluntary. 2 of them are pretty darn religious. Just for instance, does that sound? I mean, one of them is military, pretty much. Only the second one here really applies to the way that they used it in the rest of the verse. And frankly, if I did like on an average survey, I'd say it's outvoted and possibly not the correct way to look at it. So I'm kind of suspect right there. Let's get to the meat of the idea. Power of God, the powers that be.
I don't use Blue Letter Bible. I use I don't even know what this is. There's 2 of them that I use. They work pretty good.
Okay. What difference do you think that makes?
I think it's just like the interface. Because I guess ultimately it goes back to the Strongs. So it's basically the Strongs.
Okay, so I think the LXX is confirmed enough that it's possibly the most reliable and most original.
LXX, what does that mean? That means Septuagint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is what Strong's is referencing, and several other have referenced it, of course.
Well, no, I use, let's see, Bible Hub. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever this other one is.
I do check out the comments by Jusinius and see if it says something interesting, but not constantly. I think I've only ever heard one person who was an autodidact say, well, I don't really like Strong's. And I didn't challenge them because I didn't feel like having a fight, because they seem like the kind of person that would fight. And I didn't think it was on topic to ask them, well, what do you prefer? You know?
Yeah, there's no alternate.
There's some. I think you get too far away from Strong's, and your academics would call you fringe. And I mean, I'm not trying to get off the beaten path. I'm trying to point out what is obvious on the beaten path. So in this word, I cannot pronounce that. I don't. It's in the sense of ability. It meant in the text. It's written as their authority. But what it doesn't talk about authority. It's a sense of ability. Like, can they actually do it? You know. And it got translated as power or authority, the right or righteousness, liberty, jurisdiction, and strength. But what it really means is the power of choice, the liberty of doing as one pleases. That is to say, freedom. So it's not talking about the rights of government. It's talking about the freedom of the people to give leave or permission, physical and mental power and abilities, the ability of strength, with which one is endued, which he either possesses or exercises, the power of authority, of influence, and of right of privilege, right? So, I mean, some of it can be used this way, but it's not even majorative the way they used it, again. So this looks more like personal power, not governing power. I bet if I did the whole thing, it's going to come out more like follow God. God's got this. I bet it'd come out more like this, and probably has very little to do with like our governments on the world. Probably very little to do with that, but that's a guess. It's just, if it's in keeping with the rest of the work, it's not about so much what's going on here until it says things like slaves, obey your masters on the earth so that you don't end up dead. That's pretty darn direct. Or agree quickly with the guard so that he doesn't put you in front of the judge and you don't end up in jail. That's pretty direct. Of course, if you just did that sort of thing constantly, you wouldn't be effective as a teacher, because you'd just be locked up or dead. Oh, JG, did you do this? What did you find? I would like to know what you found. Where is B? I need B. Where is B? Let's see, this time of day? Don't know. Let's see, what day of the week is this? Is this her day off? Does she have a show tonight? Her show would have been done by... Oh my gosh, look at the hour. Okay, we're wrapping this up. Fifth, last thoughts you have. Final thoughts. Anything you want to say at all, please feel free.
My final thoughts are, you put a lot of effort into what you did, so I can appreciate that. But like I've always kind of said, I think you've got some good stuff and you've got some other stuff I really wouldn't agree with or understand.
Well, here's the tough part, man. I don't give a crap what you do and don't agree with. This is what the Bible actually says. Okay. If you don't agree with what the Bible actually says, you're writing your own Bible. Good luck with that.
Yeah, but you're the one who wrote your own Bible.
No, I'm not. I'm literally not writing the Bible. I'm literally unwriting the Bible. This is what it actually says. All of the church tradition can bite my left ankle. And when they're done with that, they can bite my right. Because what they did was they left words out. They changed words. They changed the intent and the meaning. They don't have a continuous frame, and it doesn't work in reality. Now, if that's what you like, you're welcome to it. But it's not the Bible. It's literally not the Bible, Fifth. Like, seriously.
Okay.
Go back and look at some of those words. You're going to find I'm not kidding you. I'm not speaking from a point of pride. This is literally what it reads. So which is better, to have an over-literal translation? You can call it over-literal if you want. Have an over-literal translation that has a continuous story that works in reality, or to have taken literally a figurative translation which left stuff out, which is exactly what the Bible says never do. I can show you quite definitively where that's not the one I want. I can show you quite definitively where that number, what was that number? 103:18:11 appears. And I can show you literally that they left out the numbers 18 and 11.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean,
now, does the Bible say don't leave anything out? Does it say that or not?
In Revelation, talking about Revelation, yeah.
It says it once in Revelation, but it says it in other places. Does it say not to add to it?
Yeah, to the same thing, I think.
If I show you they literally took away and added from it.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say is, I know you got to wrap this up, but next time, sure, point it out. I'd like that. I'll take a look.
Okay. I'll show you some direct places where they absolutely did exactly what it says never do.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Which is what we read in the King James, the NIV, all of those translations, they all did this. Because their reading frame, it doesn't make sense unless they do it. Like, there can be no number 103:18:11. There's no such number. It's not a number. You know what I'm saying? So in order for it to make sense the way they were reading it, they had to do that. I understand why. I just don't think it's advisable. But anyway, if you want to do a show sometime, and I'd let you lead it, you You could ask me
Well,
anything, and I'll only defend myself. I'll never attack you.
No, I pretty much said my opinion. I mean, like I say, I appreciate what you're doing. You got such definitely a big effort. You got some good stuff. So yeah.
I really think by the time this is done, it's going to be obvious that it's only the good stuff, that there's nothing added or taken away, and there's no need to, and that every translation available, I don't know about the Greek translations, the Hebrew translations, anything in any other language beside English. There might be something out there that's really accurate, and I don't know it. But all the English stuff I'm reading and sampling from does exactly what the Bible says to not do. Whereas what I'm doing is I'm using every little literal word and its etymology, which is why some of the words have really weird etymology, like really weird. It doesn't seem to make sense. Like some of them I would compare and say, it's like saying the idea of steering something, and then from there, instead of it being like boat or car or raft like you'd expect, it goes right to being led by Christ.
Yeah, because of course, because you're a vessel. You're a vessel.
For instance, right. Well, with the reference of vessel as a person, that makes sense. But then when they translated it, they didn't look at it that way, and they like wrote things like steering, when steering makes no sense there.
Right. Yeah, there is a little bit of quirkiness here and there, you'll notice, but yeah.
Yeah.
I
think there's no need for the quirkiness. I think it's kind of overstated and kind of simplified, and actually pretty darn repetitive. It keeps saying the same thing over and over again, but I don't think it's unclear and there's any guessing necessary. I was waiting for the delay. Okay. So thanks for coming on, Fifth. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
I would listen to anything you have to say to me anytime you want to say it, but I am going to rigorously defend myself. You understand that too?
Sure.
Okay. All right. That's fair. But how else would we really dig into it if I didn't do that? All right. So thank you for coming on, Fifth, and you're welcome to hang out or whatever you like to do in this moment. Will I be streaming next week at this time? We have a regular Wednesday show with Mac the Human and Steve at bigzebra.com. Bigzebra.com, where Monty Python meets with Mel Brooks, something like that. He's doing comedy stuff. It's real world stuff with a really unique twist of outlook at it. And I don't want to spoil it more than that. If you liked Monty Python and that kind of absolute insanity, check out bigzebra.com. He'd appreciate it if you did. And comment on his work. He's an open-minded dude. He's brilliant and weird. I like him a lot. I'm going to start doing these shows, reading the Bible and talking about the direct transliteration and necessary exegesis and my personal eisegesis within reading context. I'll be talking about that too. I'm not trying to pretend like there's no such thing as eisegesis. As soon as I finish a section that would be formidable as a show, keeping it probably down to about a half an hour, then I'll go ahead and read it online. I'll go ahead and do a show, read it online, talk about it, what little bit is there, and try to find a way to meter that to where it fits in about a half of an hour and it covers about the right amount of text. And I'm just going to keep going till it's done, the whole Bible. And I think what comes out in, I'd say 10 episodes or less is something that works in reality, involves no magic or superstition, is talking about powerful, intelligent beings, which are human beings, and perfected human beings, acting on reality. It's all about them acting on reality and also telling us how we're going to react to it when we see it, and or quote unquote prophecy, which to them it's not prophecy. It's only prophecy to us because we've never seen it. And that's not magic, man. That's experience. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate all 5 of you watching who are and are not signed in. And also Mac and Marty, and of course, Fifth, JG, who had a lot of interesting things to say early in the show. Peebo Thulu, who has some, well, maybe he's going to do some research for me on these United States-owned developments in his country because he's in Australia. I'd love to hear more about that. I personally can't find anything. I can't even get the internet to flip me the bird. It's just like, nope, you're not allowed to look here. Sorry, buddy, get lost. Thank you, Robert X and JG.
Well, aren't you getting a lot of your information from the internet, because you seem to be a jack of all sort of topics? And I'm wondering, like, how do you get all this stuff?
Well, when people ask me for sources, I can usually find them. When I don't have sources, I do talk sometimes about necessarily extrapolation from given information. That is to say, if I see a paper cup with coffee in it, it's logical for me to say that coffee beans exist, transportation for coffee beans exists, cooking of coffee beans exists, transportation of systems to cook coffee beans exist, trucks exist, factories making paper cups exist, and wax exists. Now, none of that was in a cup of coffee.
Wow.
But all of it needs to be there for the cup of coffee to be there, you see?
Mm-hmm. Very
So
good.
sometimes I have to do that. That's eisegesis. Talking about the cup of coffee itself is exegesis. Talking about what's necessary that is implied by the cup of coffee is eisegesis, if you want to look at it that way.
All right. Well, I won't keep you. Thanks for your time. Talk to you later.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thanks for dropping by. Peace and respect to you all. I hope to see you again soon. Please leave comments. It's not that I defend myself with a zealous defense because I believe this is true. That is not the same as I can't be convinced otherwise. I don't think that ultimately I have to be true, nor is this for my personal comfort. I find solace in thinking that what I believe is true is the actual truth. And if it's not what I think I want corrected, please make me more right than I already am if you find a thing. Okay? And I would appreciate that. So until next time, guys, which will probably be about 2 or 3 days from now, peace and respect to you all. And I want you all to know that I truly do look forward to the day that we're all great friends.